Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dad Level Podcast, episode 16. Wow, what a podcast. This one is going to be about Resident Evil, our memories, our experiences, our hopes for the future. All right, guys, let's go for it.
Our itchy, scratchy.
Itchy, tasty.
Oh my gosh. That man, Andrew, me and Andrew would just sit there and talk about that we'd sit there and text each other going, itchy, Scott came.
Ugly face, so kill him.
Ugly face.
Kill him. Oh man.
Yeah, no, and that was Resident Evil. Like, I had my PlayStation, I think, for probably a couple of months at that point, and I had rented a couple of games. The first full game I ever played on PlayStation was called Disruptor, and I remember it blew me away because it had full motion video, and I had never seen anything like that before. And it wasn't until so we went to Funko Lands, going back, and got my PlayStation, with everything that comes with it. It also came with a subscription to, I think it was EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly. And so I would read that as a kid. I would take it to school, and they're like, "Oh, you got to read a real book." And then I would, I'd have it in my binder, and I'd open it up, and I'm reading EGM. And that's when I first saw Resident Evil, and it was so weird to me because it had the weird camera angles, and I'm used to either it's going to be overhead or it's first person like Doom and Duke Nukem that I played on PC at the time. I didn't understand how that game worked. In fact, I actually kind of dismissed it because I thought it was going to be a point and click adventure, not realizing it was for PlayStation, but it was a first look. So finally, after reading the preview, the next EGM that came out was a full walkthrough of the game. And I'm sitting there reading it, and I'm like, you know what? This sounds amazing. This sounds like something that I want to get, that I want to play. So I tried to rent it. I never could. Eventually, my birthday came up, and I said, "Hey, I want this game called Resident Evil." And I remember my mom was like, "What is that?" But basically, got the game. And keep in mind, I didn't have a memory card because at the time when I got a PlayStation, the original model, the little flap where it says memory card, as a kid, because I'm stupid, I thought that meant the memory card was in there, and that if you didn't have one, it would just be a blank space. So I thought I had a memory card. I'm used to my NES and my Super NES. You just save it on the cartridge and it works. So I'm like, okay, yeah, fine. So finally, I get Resident Evil on it. It was at a birthday party, and this is I knew Ember from school, but I hadn't met Vince yet. So this was a little bit before I met y'all. And it was a couple of kids that I knew from the neighborhood. We came over and we were flipping through the booklet, and we were like, we were going to go play Resident Evil in the yard. And I remember two of the guys there, one of them had picked Barry for some reason. The other guy had picked Chris. And I picked the one guy that died, Joseph Frost. That's who I was going to be. And so we went out, we played in the yard for a little bit. Finally, the mosquitoes got bad enough. My birthday's in the summer. And we came inside and we started playing. No idea how to play this game. I'm telling you, and I was really upset too because I thought it was going to be super cool. I had no idea how to play this game. I thought I fell on my face. I was, it was been fifth, probably going into sixth grade. I had no idea what I was doing. And we played it. We would pass the controller around, and then we just ended up going back. I think I had Street Fighter Alpha EX or something on PlayStation. Ended up playing that, and I didn't touch Resident Evil again for probably about 2 months. Still didn't have a memory card. And until finally my friend Brandon had come over, and he said that he had heard about it a lot. And it was really cool. And then finally I said, okay, well, let's play. Well, I died. And I was like, well, maybe I could just continue where I left off. And it was like a really slow, creeping realization that, no, there is no continue. You have to save. So we slowly, two little fifth graders, sixth graders, slowly put together, okay, you have to find this stuff called an ink ribbon. You have to use it in a typewriter. And I'm like, oh, my grandma had a typewriter. So I'm like putting it together, how to actually use it. I was like, wait, I wonder if you actually have to type in the game, like, that you want to save, like it's a computer. So we finally got it together, and I realized, oh, the memory card. That's right. So we had saved up our money because I had a PlayStation, he didn't, and we had gotten about $25 together, saved up from chores. And I asked my mom, "Hey, can you take me to, I don't remember, maybe Toys R Us? Can you take me to Toys R Us. I need to buy this thing called a memory card. So I'm having to explain to her what it is. She's like, well, do you have enough money for your chores and everything? But the moment that I mentioned, well, yeah, I do, but Brandon's helping me out. She goes, no, he's not going to pay for your stuff. She didn't take us. So I was like, crap, okay, I still can't get a memory card. So finally I told Brandon, he came over to spend the night, and I said, you know what? We're going to have to get this in one shot. I said, why don't you read the walkthrough to me? I'll play, and then we'll switch the controller. I'll read the walkthrough to you. He said, okay, fine. Keep in mind, though, too, at this time, I still wasn't sold on this game. Like, I had, I almost considered it ruining my birthday because it was like, what kind of game is this? So we sat down that night, that Saturday, probably at like 7 o'clock. He reads the walkthrough to me. Start playing. Start getting the hang of it. We started with the lights off. The lights came back on not too far after Dog Hallway. And played it the whole night with him reading the walkthrough. We got all the way to the lab. So it was I think you get the Wolf and the Eagle medals. This is PlayStation 1, so anybody thinking about the remake on GameCube, it's gonna be a little different.
Different.
You get the Wolf and the Eagle medals, you put them in the fountain outside, it drains the water, you take the elevator down. We had a joke that, we called it the invisible pill, because anytime it showed the elevator, it's like single person lifts, it wouldn't show your characters. So, little kids, we thought it was funny. We took the invisible pill because it wouldn't show you. Anyway, invisible pill, we go down. When you get into the lab, that's when we come across the naked zombies. And anybody that remembers from those games, those guys had more HP than regular enemies. So going in there, I'm thinking, oh, they're naked. These guys must be trash. I actually tried to go with them with the pistol first, not realizing, like, oh, crap. I'm like, pop, 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 reload. One of them gets me, starts hurting me. I said, okay, I got to bust out the shotgun. And also at this time, too, we didn't know that you could just aim up on the PS1 version to blow their heads off. So I'm shooting at them waist high. Didn't realize how bad the first bite had gotten. Third naked zombie comes up. He finishes me off. And there went 7 hours. It was like 2 a.m. Done. No memory card. Dead. Naked zombie got us. And it was fun, but we sat there like, oh my God, it's over. We're done. And it was a really cool experience. I loved it. The next weekend came, we beat it, and it was 2:30 in the morning, and you have 2 little kids jumping up and down in the room going, yeah, because my parents are asleep and we can't scream and yell that we just beat this game together. And it was amazing. And I didn't realize how much that game meant to me or how much it impacted me until, I met Ember. She takes me over to the house. I meet Vince. And I think it was a matter of seconds where Resident Evil comes up, and I said, you got time to talk about it? Because I don't think Vince had it at the time. I want to say I let you guys borrow it. I don't remember.
No, I had it.
Rented it.
We rented it before it had even gotten. It was for sale. I first heard about it listening to the radio going to work, and one of the radio DJs was in my car to go to work. There was a thing called radio. It had knobs, man. It was it's really old technology. And he was talking about, he was a big fan of zombies, and every now and then he'd bring a zombie film in and talk about it. Well, he wouldn't show it, you know what I'm saying? He just bring it up in his dialogue in the morning. And I was like, wow. He was like, there's this game coming, and this is great. And then I like started hearing about it. Then a buddy of mine at Enron was into it as well. So I came home and told the kids that there's this game coming out. It's going to be all about zombies. And I was like, I was hyping it. I was talking about it because I love zombies. If I had to choose my apocalypse back then, it was zombies. And then as I realized my kids are very little and they would probably get me killed, I was like, no, I don't know if a zombie apocalypse is really a great idea with small children. Especially
you coming home with it, and it was already pretty late in the day.
Well, we went,
and
later
you were
on
like,
it
I've
came
got it.
out.
And I was like, got what? And you're like, the game I've been telling you guys about.
Yeah.
It's got the giant spiders and the snake and all this other stuff and zombies. And I was like, that sounds weird. And then you put it in, and just from the first little bit that you played, me and Vince were hooked, and we were like, keep playing. You're like, no, y'all got to go to school, and we were like, screw school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole I was
Cool.
sold on it the first time you climbed down the ladder, and it was tink, 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 and then when you walk up to a door, it would be the door, and then all blackness, and then boom, you're in the room, and whatever's in the room is there for you. I didn't use a book.
Yeah, we
No.
didn't have a
We-
book for right away.
We started playing that thing the hard way, trying to figure everything out. And
so
I remember when we first came up against what was the lizard people, the frogs that people call them, but I was
Hunters.
the hunters.
honors.
And it did that whole because when you go up to the door and you open
FFB, yeah.
and I was like, okay, hold on.
And it jumps and then slashes his head off, and he's like, "Wait, what? What?" Yeah, because it's like he didn't. We didn't realize because you can aim yourself into the doorway and then kind of back up, so you're automatically positioned at that point to be able to shoot it. But it's like of course you don't know that
Because your character takes a few steps backwards. The famous
Yeah.
Resident Evil.
Yeah,
So
you
you're
step
already
back
lined up.
and you hear that tink tink as it's walking towards you, and you're lined up. So if
Yeah,
you
the
aim
scream.
and shoot, you got it. But
Yeah.
if you make a move, remember that thing would flip you around and face you the wrong direction or against a wall. And I hated that. I died so many times with the big rolling ball because
when you're in the
Oh
caves.
yeah,
yeah, because it would turn me the wrong direction when it did the cutscene after, and I was like, I hate this game, but I
yeah.
played
Without the
it.
director's cut, there was no down and square for quick 180 turn.
No.
Yeah,
There
no
was
quick 180
auto
turn.
aim,
Mhm.
And that's
and that's
when the Crimson Zombies came in too, right? Was the director's cut?
No,
No,
the
no,
remake.
the remake.
The
Yeah.
remake. So to give a little background of what's for us, besides Dad hyping up the game, which is the reason when we got the PlayStation, we ended up renting the PlayStation to play some games first.
Wait,
off,
hold
because
on. I don't mean to interrupt. That was the whole reason you guys got the PlayStation was
Yeah.
specifically for Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay. So there's a funny thing about us with consoles.
Something he
A
didn't
lot
know.
of things that we bought console wise back in the day were for specific games. So like if it was a Star Wars game coming out, it was an instant buy. I mean, we
Game
wait a
Boy
little
Rogue
bit.
Squadron.
Yeah. Stuff like that. Well,
No, he's talking before even Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
But we were like Link. We were Mario, and when we were getting into the games, you couldn't even buy the system here. We were going to this Asian place over in old Pasadena Town Square,
the
where we
original
would go eat at Ponchos in there, and then we'd go walking around. And
God, I
one day
remember
we were walking through there, and we're like, "Whoa, what is this place?" You go in there, and it just was full of games.
Yeah, it was a rental place that had video games and everything.
And they would rent the console to you, but
the
it was
consoles out.
all in Japanese. If you were going to play a game, there was no English dialogue on that game. You were like, you're trying to figure out what was going on, and you got a
going on?
feel for the characters,
Yeah.
and you could,
But
it
we
wasn't
rented
until
the
later.
yeah, but
I
we
re-
rented the PlayStation from Blockbuster at the time
Yeah.
because I think it was the only one that had it because Hollywood hadn't got it yet to rent. Because that was back when you can rent consoles. Because I remember we rented like the Sega at the time. The Sega CD, the what else? The PlayStation. We rented the 64. We rented a bunch of stuff before we actually purchased the systems because it was just easier that way. Because we want to play something, we'd get it, play it through the whole weekend, finish what we rented, and then take it back.
as long as you had the like you were saying, if it was in the cartridge, it saved. You could play it on any game, or if you had the come on,
The memory card.
memory card. Thank you. What I need a memory card.
You need a new one, Dad.
I need something.
That's a whole other conversation. I used to have cartridge buddies back in the day renting from Blockbuster, especially if it wasn't a popular game. And you would just know the etiquette. Whereas that if somebody had a save game, if there was at least one open slot, you take the open slot. You don't save over another person's game.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the guy's name. His name was Ace_T, and it was for A Link to the Past on SNES. Because I don't know if I just kept I kept renting it instead of buying it because I was remember I'm younger than Vince, so I guess straight up I just didn't have the cognitive ability to keep up with like in-depth games like the first Legend of Zelda or the one on SNES. It was more or less just pick up and play. I'm totally missing out on dungeons. I'm totally missing out on secret items. I just like to play it. So I'll never forget Ace_T, wherever you are. We were the only two for some reason that kept renting A Link to the Past. I guess because everybody else bought it, and I would always save my game. And I remember you could look at his save and see that 2 weeks had gone by, and then I rented again, and I saw that he had played it some more, and so then I keep saving mine underneath him, and eventually I stopped renting it, but he got pretty far, so I assumed he must have been an older kid, he could have been an adult, but I loaded up his save one time to see how far he was. And yeah, he he had hearts all over the screen. He was set. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that when it came out, we had got the PlayStation. I don't remember that I had the only game. I know I got Tomb Raider at one point, but I don't remember if it was the first game I got, because I know Dad got Space Griffin, because that was one of the later on launch titles.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
But
some of the games we played on a computer, and when they came out in the cartridge, for the consoles, then we'd get them. Because my first introduction to Tomb Raider was on the PC. So, and when it transitioned over to the console, then we got it.
Yeah.
This was definitely one of those kids that heard about the hack on Tomb Raider. That
because you're a teenager, you're doing stuff. But the thing was, like, I beat that
full naked, and he was like, "There's gotta be some way to make this happen." And I was like, "I don't think it's gonna happen."
So yeah. Anyway, for Resident Evil, when we got it, the disc was scratched, so we could only get to a certain point. Yeah, so we could only get to a certain point.
So we mad.
And we went and rented it from another Blockbuster. I think we went to the one off of. So normally we'd go to the one off of Spencer to rent stuff,
and then we'd go to there was one
the hospital.
One off of. Yeah,
there was the one by the hospital, and then there was the one that
there was the one
up,
in Pasadena, Deer Park area. I'm trying to remember where that was off of. But we would go to. I don't remember. It's been so long. Because like I remember where all the Hollywood videos are, but the only real Blockbuster I really remember, I didn't know we went to multiples once. I think there was one off of not Sabo, but in that area over there too.
There was a Blockbuster over by Alameda Mall. There were ones. They were all over the place.
The one that I grew up to was in South Houston, off of Southmore.
That was the other one we went to. Yeah, that was the other one.
What was funny is I had this phone book that had all the local Toys R Us's. It had all the restaurants we would go. It had all the Blockbusters and Hollywoods and everything. So before I would head out the door and waste gas driving around, I'd get on the phone and call through them. And then only the ones who had it would we go to.
Yeah.
But
you're very trusting to call them and ask, because they don't know most of the time.
They would never hold it. You got to come. You got to hurry up. Because it's like, we've got a guaranteed renter here. I can't hold it for you. And I'd be okay. I'm on my way. And I'd get there and they go, it's gone.
Yeah.
Which car is yours in the parking lot?
So yeah, basically, the funny thing is that we went through 3 rentals of the game that were all scratched. So it's like, Dad's like, screw that. I get paid here, and I'm gonna go pick it up. So that's when we got it. But I remember at that time was the first time I actually like had the chance to look at the manual and all the the spelling errors and everything.
Oh, and my girl's son, he just had a English project, and part of the extra credit was to find grammatical errors, even typos in the real world, and take pictures, no screenshots. I went through my phone. I still have pictures from Resident Evil 2 with misspellings. And I said, hold on, let me dig through my retro, and pulled out my full box Resident Evil that still has the mint condition booklet that has the errors on the back for the strategy guide, where it says it has all the secrets. There's like an extra C in secrets. And then they left the R out in strategies, and it says strategies and much more. and so that's what he had submitted for his extra credit.
What
Got it.
always made me mad when you'd
Nice.
rent it, there would be no book in it. You know,
That
so
was
it wasn't
super
until
rare.
we bought
Yeah.
games that we actually got to see the manual for the
Yeah.
thing.
I used to put, when I got internet, you know, it was so rare for people to have internet, I would put cheat codes in there and I would slide them back in the box because I thought I was like helping out the other kids, and it wasn't until way later. Another friend of ours also happened to name Edward. He worked at Hollywood Video, and he told me that sometimes that happens. And I'm like, dude, I used to do that when I was a kid. Like, that's crazy that they still do that. He goes, oh yeah, we throw that shit away. I was like, come on, man.
You're gonna help the next
There's
kid
somebody
out?
out there that doesn't have internet or they don't know what to do. They need that. That's a lifeline.
But that's
Yeah.
funny because it was that game that taught me how to play those games. I will not just move through an area. Man, I search everything and I try to figure everything out that you can do in every area. And then if I had to, then because sometimes you had to come back after you beat the game to go back and do something else. But with that one, I've tried to get everything before I moved on.
You needed to.
Well, the funny thing is, like, it was because of that game that we came up with the whole. And I'm sure a lot of people came up with this too, but like the room reset fairy or the reset goblin. So if you messed up a room, you just walk back, you walk out and come back in the room, and everything's back to where it was, so you can figure out the puzzle.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
on the moving puzzles, you know.
Yeah. So, but I remember, when we got it, but when we rented it, we played it like crazy. But I know the first time I played it, the thing that scared me was like going down the hallway to the dogs, and it's like because I didn't get to watch. Yeah, they just jump another thing, and I was like, man, no, I gotta take a break from this.
You threw the controller. You went, nope. I'm going to bed. I was
Why
like,
is my
"No,
controller not working? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
Because I watched.
Oh.
I would watch
It's like,
Dad
yeah,
play.
hey, 25 years later, you can go ahead and cop to it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Dog
Yeah,
hallway.
that's it.
But I did the same
Make it
thing
do
with
ground.
Silent Hill, so I can't complain.
The,
Yeah, I mean, I remember we just played it and stuff, and then
well, hold on.
okay,
I
yeah.
had to make them go to bed because they had to get up and go to school in the morning. And I was a crazy insomniac. And I could go on like 2 or 3 hours. And so I'd make sure they've gone to bed, doing all my parental, reading a story, whatever I needed to do, or talk to them to get them relaxed. And then I'd go back down and start playing. And I would go, okay, I'm going to turn all the lights off except for the bathroom. Remember, the bathroom was in that hallway across from the garage. That would be my only light. I'd be sitting in the middle of the floor, and that creepy hallway that went to where the stairs were, there was always noises in that hallway. And I'd be playing, and I'd hear something that wasn't in game, and I go, and I'd look down that hallway, and sometimes you'd see that
Smoke?
shadow standing back
Smoke,
down
is
there.
that you?
Yeah.
Were
Or
you
Witchy.
like that? Okay.
And I'd be like, okay. And I go back to playing, and then it would like a thump in the hallway, and I'm like, okay, that's it. I gotta go to bed. This is gonna go on. And then I'd get up and have to walk the house to make sure everything was good. Then I'd go lay down and go to sleep. But I would often be up playing that game late at night by myself. And that house always waited till I was by myself to really start being weird. And there was that picture of Mark's mom.
Before
that
we
used to
rented
be-
it.
Before we rented it, that used to be in that hallway. And I remember how it would stare at you when you walked through the hallway. So that hallway always had this kind of feeling of you
feel.
being watched, even when the picture wasn't there anymore. That was like,
Well, I mean, the house, it was like wood paneling. So if
Yeah.
you stared at either
Yeah.
wall at any given time, you'd see a face in it.
Yeah.
And then you'd unsee the face. And then it was never a nice looking face. It always looked like a zombie with half its head blown off and like some weird looking eye. Like, you always like would see the weirdest shit in the walls. So obviously after starting playing that game, it didn't help any. But I remember the infamous day, Dad's at work.
Hold on,
Vince
no.
comes-
You got to preface this first, right?
we got to keep going up
Dad-
to that. Let us,
Dad gets to the end of the game and he can't beat the tyrant. He's all
'cause
like,
What, the
refuse
first,
to-
after he kills Wesker? Or
yeah,
No, no,
when you're running out there on the helicopter pad,
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
didn't realize that you had to wait that 2 minutes, and then Brad, right, Vickers,
Yeah, Brad drops
dropped the
rocket launcher.
helicopter. I mean, rocket launcher to you.
Drop
And
that
I was
helicopter.
not getting it. I was not getting it. And I refused to look at a book. If anybody tried to tell me about something, no, I don't want to hear it. I'm doing this on my own. And I remember I struggled that whole day before. And I was like, do not, if y'all play this, do not save over my game, because they
Which
done
we
that
didn't.
to
I
me
didn't.
before.
We didn't save
Y'all-
over your game.
No, y'all didn't. But when I was told, now I'll let you
Yeah, go
get
ahead.
a phone call at work.
Because I was
So-
frustrated. I was like, Dad, just do this. Do this.
Dad was waiting for the weekend. He wanted the rest of the weekend to try to beat this, but Dad has a thing about putting on a soundtrack to help him kind of get in the groove of playing a video game. He used to do it when he would go to arcades and stuff like that all the time. So I remember sitting down there watching Vince, and I was like, oh shit, he's about to beat it. Hey, Dad. Yeah. Don't tell me. Yeah, Vince, just don't. I said, God damn it. And he's like, it worked.
And I'm at work,
Vince
and
is
people
like,
are
I
like,
didn't
"What's
play
going on
for
with Vince? Is everything okay?"
This is my game I'm playing on, Dad.
Yeah, but it started such a big fight too. Dad was so mad. He's like, "But I wanted to beat it first," and I was like, "You still can beat it. It's just
You can still can't
See,
beat it. You
it
can
was
beat
like-
okay.
It's
Yeah,
I
not
it
was
people that can beat it
wondering
first.
what started this, because it was because like this was my first introduction to it, like a gamer parent, and now I'm one. But it blew my mind that that Vince's dad like played games. That just didn't make sense to me.
Well,
And
I played arcades in high school.
yeah, and see,
that
and
was
then
our
didn't
thing.
didn't you have a game store or a comic store?
Be a comic store.
I had a comic store later, but back then, there was Goldmine, there was Tilt, there was a couple of game places that, man, as soon as school got out, and if I didn't have to be home or didn't have to be to work, that's where I went. And I would play for a little while till I knew I was gonna have to be home. Where have you been? I went and saw a girl. Okay. Because if I
Dad
told
lied
my
about
dad, if I told my dad I was playing a game at the mall, I'd have been in trouble. But
Man, that was
and
a foreign
it was
concept
a
to me.
natural thing, and and I had the Atari. A buddy of mine had the Coleco. Man, we would go over there and play, and I got to play Tron and all those other things in there. But the stuff that was in the arcades were better than anything you could get on a console at that time. And then, my brother came to live with us, and I was working with him, and he decided, it's getting close to Christmas, I'm going to go buy the kids something and let them pick out what they want. And Ember's like, I want the Nintendo. And he was like, well, how much is it? We looked and found out, and he was like, okay. And I was like, man, he didn't even friggin' blink.
And my thing right now is like my chance to get the USS flag, and it was. I don't think at the time it wasn't there.
Yeah, it wasn't there.
I don't
my
think
brother,
Vince-
my
I
brother
don't
would have bought
remember
it
if
for him.
Vince had said that he wanted it originally, because I remember.
Oh, I wanted the
saying-
Nintendo.
Did?
I wanted the
I remember
Nintendo.
the minute I told him I wanted a Nintendo, he was like, "Okay."
Yeah, I was
That's
like,
'cause
cool.
you had him wrapped around your little finger.
Yeah.
When she get in trouble and I go to punish her, or you have to do something, or you're grounded, or you got to go stand in the corner. No, she don't. Yes, she does. No, she don't. And my brother's like 6'7". He was a giant of a man, 400 something pounds. And when he said, no, she doesn't. Okay. And I just scowl at my daughter, like, you'll get it when he's got her right. And I remember when we got it, we ended up getting we got Mario, we got
Duck Hunt with it.
Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt.
Zelda.
I got Zelda, and then my favorite Castlevania 2, which that was it for me. And then I would play that. Oh, and then Metal Gear.
Well, we got
And,
those. We got Metal Gear later and Castlevania
later, but yeah,
yeah.
but that was another game that was, one of those game changing things for me. But I would be like, okay, it's like they're in bed, but Roger's like, I still want you to play. And I'm like, Roger, man, we got to be up early. No, we don't have to be. Yeah, I have to pay rent. And he'd be like, yeah, okay, all right, we'll just play for a little bit longer. And he'll go in, and all of a sudden he'd come out of the kitchen with another 6-pack. And I'd be like, oh my God, no. And I'm going to turn it off. He goes, don't turn it off. Keep playing. I was held hostage by my older brother so he could watch me play friggin' video games.
I wonder if
And
that's
then
where I got it from.
and
That's
I
what
would
I do now.
accidentally turn it off. Oh, I hit the button. And he would go, you did that on purpose. I mean, no, I didn't. And then so it got so bad that when I was like doing something, he would set where because I would set between him and the game system. So he couldn't see what was going on. He moved a chair so he could set sideways, watch what I was doing on the game, but also watch how close I got to the game. Why don't you back away from that game a little bit? It's like, I'm a grown man. Why do I feel like I'm being babysitted by my older brother?
That's hilarious. You got held hostage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Play a game.
Play a game.
Yeah. So
Um,
we,
But that's what I was saying. Like that, I remember when Vince told me that. It might have been the next year in 6th grade. There was a game that had come out, and I got it or rented it, and I asked Vince. I said, "Hey, have you played this yet? Whatever it was." And he goes, "Oh yeah, but I'm not allowed to beat it until my dad beats it." And I was like, "What, for real?" Because I didn't know that he even was playing Resident Evil at the time. Because like me and Vince were still kind of new in the friendship, so I didn't go over there as much. Over time, I did, and that's when I learned, like, oh yeah, if Mr. Shooter bought the game, he gets to beat it first. So as soon as Vince turned 16 and he started working and buying those games,
he started
beating the damn thing.
He started buying his own game.
Or
And it
about
was
games
like-
that like he wasn't going to play.
I would I remember like when I'd go pick up my books from the shop and I'd come back and they've been read. They're kind of bent a little bit because
No.
they didn't read the books right. And I'd be like, no, this is mine. I get to deflower this book. I paid for it, not y'all. Okay, I know.
Well,
And my
speaking of
daughter just
comics,
went, oh
they
my
came out.
gosh. But it was the truth. Everything I had, somebody else touched before I could ever, get to use it or do, And then they would like, oh yeah, that happens in this. You'll like this book.
Thanks for
Did you
telling
just
me.
tell me what
Yeah,
happened?
thanks for
Oh
ruining
yeah,
it.
but you're gonna read it. You're gonna like it. And
Well,
it wasn't
you
until
know-
I started doing it to people when I got old. Because I'd come in and all y'all guys would be around and I had already seen a movie or something and I would just immediately start talking about it.
Or a
and then-
game and ruin it for
or a
some.
game. Somebody evidently in the room was slow and would not play them, and I would ruin it for him. Okay, well, I won't play that game. And Big Josh, I used to ruin stuff for Big Josh all the time.
Yeah, Resident Evil is the reason why I play games slow now. So when Metal Gear Solid Sons of Liberty came out, that's Metal Gear is my favorite game series, and I had gotten my friend Robert, or he was into it already. So that was like I had Vince that loved Metal Gear, and then I had my friend Robert that loved Metal Gear. It was the two, and that's all we would talk about. Well, when Sons of Liberty came out, I knew I wasn't going to get it until Christmas. So Robert had a neighbor who was a young guy and would buy all the games himself, and he bought it when it came out. And so Robert had joked. He said, "Hey, I'm already like almost done playing it." It's like, dude, it only came out like 2 days ago. How? I said, man, it's amazing. Want me to tell you about it? And I said, no, dude, please don't, because I think I'm gonna tell you about it. This is in high school. As soon as he said, "No, I think I'm gonna tell you about it," I ran from him down the hall and ran away. And he yelled, he said, "Olga's the ninja," and that's the only thing I heard. And of course, it played over in my head over and over again. I had to hide from him for 2 months until Christmas time in order to not get any spoilers. Like I even pulled my own Metal Gear, and I was in the library in the back, like documentary section. Not documentary, but the autobiographies. And they didn't think to come over there. I don't know why, but I had like got on the ground and crawled on my belly like a snake and went around one of the bookcases they had there underneath the table because him and a couple other people were looking for me because he had finally beaten it. And so for 2 months, I had to hide from him. And unfortunately for Sons of Liberty, that was one game that I played quickly because even though it was on Christmas break, they were always hitting me up like, "Hey, you want to come over and hang out?" And it's like, I can't be around Robert. It's the first thing he's gonna do is gonna work something out. I got to beat it. But that was the one game I played stressfully, very fast, even though I didn't want to. But Resident Evil, that's the reason I play slow. So when games come out, I always tell people, well, you're gonna beat it before me because I'm gonna take my time. If I see, if it's an open world game, I see a trash dumpster over there, I'm gonna walk around it. I'm gonna see if I could jump in it. See if there's an item, and then I'm walking on.
My weakness is open world games because I will go and do whatever they send me off to do. I will go do other missions, and then somebody will go, "Wow, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm doing all these missions." "Oh, well, you should beat the game first and do this." I'm like, "No, I want to enjoy this game."
You level up so much by the time you get to the first mission, it's like, "Welcome, rookie." You're badass already.
You get to the final boss, you just like stab him with your knife, and he goes, "Ugh!"
And you're like, "Was that a boss?" "Yeah, that was the boss." "Oh,
Wait, what is this? The
boss.
credits? This is the credits of the game? Jeez, what the heck? No, but
I didn't get you very far with Days Gone, Dad, because you
haven't
beaten it yet. Because
that's because I don't have.
Game.
Well, I love this game, and I've been trying to do everything in it, and then I got beat up last year and put in the hospital, and he broke the two most important fingers that I can't bend, be honest. And you try to use a controller with these two fingers. Like,
have you thought about doing a pro controller with the paddles? I don't even know if you can see this dang thing.
It's all blurry.
Oh, I like that. No.
So I don't recommend these for, I'm doing like a product review. I don't recommend these for like everyday use because I've had to crack this thing open like 7 times to fix our LB. But yeah, I'm addicted to these now for any game that I play because I can continue to move, with the left stick, and then this is B, Y, X, and A. And so I'm just like very rarely, like maybe if it's a quick time event, I'll use the face buttons here. But for everything else, it's all about the paddles back here. So if you can at least still do the triggers and maybe some of the bumpers, you're fine. You can leave these back here. So
that might be something I need to look for then, just to give it a try.
We're trying to get him to learn to use his other fingers. His pointer, and then I think this one are giving him the most trouble. So I'm trying to get him to see if he can't use other fingers.
These are good. I have arthritis in these, but I can still do a controller with this. It's these two, and then the more you use them, they get fatigued, and then all of a sudden, right when you need to be doing something because you're being in the middle of an attack, and your fingers like, we're going to give up.
Seizes up.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh. So it's taking me forever to try to get to the end.
That's already a long game. It got to the point, I enjoyed it, but it got to the point where I was, I hate saying it, but I was skipping cutscenes just to get to the end. Now, I have a really big back catalog of games to play, so that also factored into it. But, I was sitting there like, okay, I got it. And I was just skipping cutscenes because that game, I don't want to say it dragged on, but it was a lot longer than I thought it should have been. But I still, I'd probably give it like a solid 7.5 out of 10, maybe even an 8. My biggest gripe with the game was the voice acting was a little bit too real because the main character, every single time something would happen, he'd be like, okay, wait, okay, explain that to me. Slow down. Where did you see that?
That might be the drink you're drinking, man.
He did it every time because even like when you run into people, you got like people stranded, and you're like, oh yeah, you can go to this camp. It's a decent work camp. They would be like, oh my, oh my god. I'm just like, come on, dude.
What I love about that game was that I would spend a lot of time without any ammo left and being chased, and all I have is my knife, and I would survive.
Kite him around, stab, run around.
Stab,
just
stab.
And just like whenever they disperse, then I'd go hunt them down because you have that time frame.
Yeah.
If they get back to the cave, they repopulate the whole swarm.
Yes.
I'd be like, man, no, you ain't doing that to me. Not after I went through that. And I would hunt them down and kill them. And I remember I there was one that was over by where the radio tower was. And I'd been sneaking around and killing them. And I was like, man, I think there's maybe 4 or 5 of them left. And I stumbled into a bunch of them coming over this hill. And so I was running and I would turn and try to kill him and run. And I did this roll to avoid an attack and it threw me into a tree. And I was stuck in the tree like this, upside down, and I could spin, but I couldn't do anything. And I hadn't got, I think, I can't remember. I think you had to save in those games. I don't think it saved exactly where you were. You had to go back a little bit. And so I knew that if I turned it off, I was going to have to go redo this part again, and I would refuse. So I left it running for a couple of days to see if he would fall out of the tree, and he would be there, and I'd be like, and he'd be spinning, and I was like, turn that thing off. Waited a week, and then I went, okay, I'll do this again, and then I finally beat it. I mean, that part of it, but and then the motorcycle.
Oh, when you go to pick it up, it would flip out of your hands.
Flip out of your hand and go flying, and you'd be looking at it go over a mountain. You're like, okay.
Dang, I never really, really had any glitches like that.
Oh
yeah. If you got to a safe place, you could recall your bike or your car or whatever, and it would be right outside the building.
Yeah.
So I would have to trek on foot all the way across somewhere to get back to the base camp, and then call my vehicle back to me, and it would be sitting there just pristine.
Like just get yeeted across the fucking map. I'm sorry.
Well,
that's hilarious.
I mean, because you have that kind of stuff with Days Gone, and Days Gone was a great game too.
I love Days. I like Dying
Light was good.
Dying Light.
I like all of
this. Which one? Dying Light.
Yeah, Dying Light. I that was part of my back catalog. I just played and beat that. I kind of had a little bit of Days Gone syndrome, where it felt kind of long in the tooth.
Yeah,
I don't think I played any of the DLC, but I definitely got it. I definitely got into it. Only complaint with that one is I like to, especially towards the end of the game, I like to feel like I'm a god, and that one, which I know would appeal to some people, I still felt vulnerable in that game.
Yeah.
Even when I had guns and ammo, and it would be at nighttime, and the creatures, whatever they were called, would swarm you. I'd take a couple of shots, but smartly they would run after I hit them. They would make me go to them.
Yeah.
Even after I had leveled up, I even think I had leveled up into that. There's like a fourth category, like a prestige. That's the only thing I can think to call it, where they have some more abilities that you can do. I had already started leveling in that, and still I got caught slipping when I was at night one time, and I had almost no recourse. I broke my modified super weapon that had flame attributes on it, because I think anything with like a pickaxe or anything like that was my favorite, so I'd always modify those and put flame on them, and you would get like maybe one or two swings in, and you'd be swarmed, and it was over.
So you never went and got all the special weapons, the ones that glowed purple?
Yeah, I would buy some of the orange ones, but every blueprint that I had was always a blue weapon, and I mean, as long as it was 1-on-1, maybe even 1-on-2, I could hold my own. But when it came to fighting the creatures at night, I still felt like they had an advantage over me, especially when they swarmed. It didn't matter.
Well, they definitely did have an advantage, and then the DLCs, the AI became that much smarter, and boy, it got hard in some of those.
Unless you're like Dad and stayed next to the UV light and kept.
I did that. I cheesed it like that. I would go stand on the UV light gates. I would run out and be like,
make them come
and
you.
Get me, and then I'd back up,
and
get them up
start
for
killing them.
Easy points. But getting caught out at night trying to go get a care package, and then running, for the most part, I could stay alive. But if I didn't catch that fence just right,
I liked making that bomb that would whistle. And it would call them the trap. So you set that, and then you go and put your other mines around. So because it's going to blow up the ones that come in, and then as they chase out after you, they start running into your mine. And that was a great mine. That was a great way to thin a herd. But I remember one got right in the front of me in a doorway, and he couldn't hit me. and he would swing and it wasn't hitting me. And I was like, wow, he's actually through the door. He's got to be hitting me. He wouldn't. So I just kept cutting him. And eventually he goes, ooh, and he falls over dead. And then, so the next time it happened, I was like, okay, this is cool. I got this. And he goes, and he killed me. And I was like, F you, game. F you.
Well, we all have one game to thank for that, and I think it's definitely Resident Evil.
Evil. So
Because-
listen,
Oh,
Dad, go ahead.
and,
Go ahead
and
and
I
tell
was going
your.
to say, then there's, whatchamacallit? Dead Island. I loved all the
oh
Dead
yeah,
Island
Dead Island.
games. Zombies are my games.
But yeah, Dad, go ahead and tell when you actually beat Resident Evil 1.
I came home and everybody was there. Everybody was anxious and ready. They knew it was going to happen. He was like trying to tell me, no, I'm going to do this on
You're
my
like,
own.
not a word.
Not a word.
What, any
I went and got
strategies?
my old mixtape that I used to play at the arcades. I still had the cassette. Put it in the thing, put my headphones on. Cheap Trick comes on from Heavy Metal.
Soundtrack.
And it just fit the action and the way he moved. And then the thing dropped. And I was like, oh. And I grabbed it. And the music is right there. And I'm pumping. My adrenaline is up. And I turn, and just as he goes to do this and do that swipe that knocks you, I knew that would have been it for me because it would have killed me. I fire it right into his face, and it does the cut scene, and it goes out, and it goes, and it goes, boom, and everybody in the house screamed. People like, what's going on over there? I mean, we were all doing it, and yeah. Oh gosh, man, that was like, unless you can't explain it to people. It was very emotional for me.
Yeah.
It's a game, Dad. No, it's not. It's more than that.
I survived. I survived the horrors of the night. No, the funny thing is too, is that, right after that, it was like, we were already thinking about how Resident Evil 2 was going to be. Before we knew
Yeah.
about the cutscenes, we knew this was going to be a hit, and that they were going to make a sequel, especially this being Capcom. And, I remember me and Andrew just sitting there talking about like what we thought the next game would be, because we didn't think it was going to be like what they did. We thought that, because of the fact that the virus is out, because of the first mansion, that it was going to start spreading into the world. So like the game was going to be about, maybe somebody surviving in a small town, because we thought Resident Evil might be in a smaller town, not like a big city like they ended up making it being, where like, places like old Pasadena, for people that know here in Houston, or McKinney, where Dad's at, maybe they have some industrial areas and stuff, but most of it would be like a small town community and stuff. So you would start out like going through neighborhoods. And the funny thing is, like, the vision that me and Andrew came up with was very similar to like Silent Hill, where when Silent Hill came out, you're running around the neighborhoods, finding keys, doing stuff inside the houses and stuff, and in the apartment complexes and the schools and yeah. And so it was like our idea of what was the next Resident Evil game was technically Silent Hill. But and then I remember the demo coming out and stuff, and us talking about that and playing it with Leon. And
during
yeah.
that time, I was constantly trying to figure out and wanted to play this thing called Biohazard, which was supposed to be the original version of the game. And I was like, I want to play that now. And then they released the director's cut of Resident Evil.
Which is
Resident Evil.
trash.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
version we got here in the States was trash because
It had arranged music, which is terrible. I love the Resident Evil soundtrack. I listened to that and Silent Hill when I work. I hated the arranged music in that game, and I don't think there's an option to change it. You can play the original.
not
game.
the one. I still have it. My
no.
biggest regret is not having the original copy anymore, because when they did the remake,
the director's
was
cut,
like-
you were like, okay, well, we're going to get rid of this one.
yeah,
And then I think you just gave,
I gave it to somebody. I don't know.
you
who
gave
it
the
was.
disc away, because we gave the case and the disc away, but we still had the manual, because I ended up giving that to Andrew for his birthday one year, just as a joke with something else. Because we always used to joke about the fact that like Edward Dewey, the character that's in the manual that's not even in the game.
In the game, yeah.
The back of the manual with all the freaking spelling errors or grammatical.
And I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to that. I remember you giving it to me. I think at that time, it must have been around the Xbox 360 era, and I
Yeah.
did not give a damn about old games. I was about what's out now. That's all that matters. So I know I think I lost it, and then slowly but surely, like 4 years ago, when I started really getting back into retro collecting and getting my consoles and all that good stuff. I'm not gonna tell you how much I paid because it's embarrassing. But there's a place here in Houston called Replay Games, and one of the guys that works there, he's cool. And I mentioned it to him. He's like, "Oh, I just happen to have the Resident Evil booklet because I bought the long box version on eBay. Didn't come with the booklet. He still had the little foam insert.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah.
He had the Capcom catalog that was like a little one piece
Pamphlet, yeah.
that came in there, and he had the booklet. He's like, "I'll sell it to you for this amount," and I had to jump on it, and I did have a little bit of buyer's remorse, like right after that, like I just kind of paid a little bit too much for this. But when I put the whole thing together, especially with the foam insert, to be honest with you, I love the booklet, but the foam insert kind of made it. It just felt good. It felt like I was back in 1996, and it was really cool to have it all, put together. And even the cooler thing about the booklet, it still has the tear out card in it that you have to send to Capcom.
Yeah,
so pretty cool.
And then my other biggest mistake was when they all came out on GameCube. I got rid of almost all of the original stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I loved GameCube so much, but now I've got that regret. Why didn't I keep all that other stuff?
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, like, I think it was Andrew that told me that so I was probably one of the first of my friends that collected anything.
I don't know. So
and
much
it wasn't like
as you didn't get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like your dad did, I would keep something if like a remastered, upgraded version, or even if I just didn't want it anymore, I was selling it or giving it away. And then 10, 15 years later thinking, God damn it.
Yeah, but I remember you come over like, man, I think it was like you said that like you were the reason why I got into collecting again, because it's like you saw my stuff and it's like, man, I miss all this stuff. And it's like
that room,
yeah, I mean, I didn't I don't know, I just like keeping things that remind me of my childhood. That's my pictures, of course, as I've said before. Because it's like I remember when I was playing that game, who was around me, what was going on, the music that was being played at the time, the smells, the whole environment. It's just like a flashback of being there for a moment in time. But it's funny because like when Resident Evil 2 came out, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get into everything this episode, so we might extend this into another one later on.
I got a lot I want to ask you.
There's a lot to be brought up. But whenever Resident Evil 2 came out, we got it early. Was it Game Bros? What was the game store that was right over there by the Walmart and where the GameStop and I think it was Walgreens was over there off of Spencer? They used to rent out games and they would sell games.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And they put stuff they put like locations in the mall, Alameda and Baybrook, and
yeah. But I don't think it was Game Bros.
The only one that I remember in Alameda
Game Pros or Game Bros. And I remember
I think it was Game Pros.
Game Pros.
If anything, it was that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Because I know that I know who the owner is for Game Bros, but I just can't remember if it was Pros or what it was. But I remember I got Persona there, and that was one of the first games I bought at that location. But we had pre-ordered Resident Evil there. They called my dad and said, "Hey, we got our copies in a little early. We're going ahead and releasing them because I think somewhere broke Street 8 or something."
I don't even think Street 8 mattered back then, to be honest with you.
True, I understand. Yeah, I agree with that too, because I don't think it really kind of started being a.
It didn't start being a thing until consoles were online.
Yeah, because I I remember 4 being like that, where when it came out, because there was stuff that came with 4, and then from that point on, you got, if you bought it early and it came out, then you got, if you pre-ordered it, you got it early and you got all the merchandise that came with it.
Like all the
But,
all the
all the
pre-order
extra
goodies.
stuff. But I don't remember that being that way for the second and
But-
third game.
Yeah, because we were playing. I remember I told you, Andrew, we got it and stuff. And you're like, oh man, I haven't got my copy yet. Because I think you had yours at EB.
Funny
Games, didn't
enough, Resident Evil 2 is the only Resident Evil. Well, I guess besides Code Veronica for the Dreamcast, because I did get it for PS2. But Resident Evil 2 is the only one that I never owned at the time.
you? Okay. Okay.
I don't remember how it ended up working out. I don't know if I had rented it or what, but yeah, I never actually, I mean, I own it now, but I didn't own it back then. And I ended up renting it. Even better, super short story. My grandma's town, Dyersburg, Tennessee. Dead on for Raccoon City. So, and I know one day I need to do a road trip with you to make a pilgrimage to it because it really is.
Awesome.
That's
Okay.
where I played Resident Evil 2. I rented it from a mom and pop store. My grandma, I miss her, I love her. She actually let me drive her car when I was like 13 to go to the rental store and rent movies for her. And I rented Resident Evil 2 and played it in the little den in her house. And that's when I got to do it. And it was amazing to see Raccoon City and think, oh my gosh, like 2 minutes down
That's
the road.
where I'm at.
It's downtown Dyersburg, Tennessee, and it looks the exact same. Of course, I was scared to death, but it was awesome. But yeah, it's the only one I never owned.
Yeah. So we'll definitely have to take a trip out there. That'd be cool to get some footage for this.
If
But,
I don't get to go, I'm gonna be fucking riot.
So the funny thing is too with like Resident Evil 4, it's okay. I worked at
Going back
Best
to 4?
Buy. Huh?
Going back to 4?
No. I want to talk about like what was cool about when we got Resident Evil 4.
Oh,
So
okay.
when we got Resident Evil 4, it was hilarious because Best Buy, I was working at Best Buy at the time. So Best Buy had this thing where you could do rain checks if something wasn't on the in the ad,
Yeah.
so you can get it for the price that you rain check it for, right? So I wish I had this freaking ad for that week, but it had a bunch of games. There was a bunch of game sales. Right on there, it was like $20 games. Resident Evil 4. This game's not even out
What?
yet. I was like,
They
Dad,
would
you
put
need
the
to-
wrong game picture
in the
on
picture.
the ad, but you go, and if you didn't know how to argue with them, they'd go, oh no, that was a mistake. Oh, that's a mistake that you're paying for, not me. You advertised this game at that price.
So I need to make a phone call. So I called my dad. Hey, Dad, you need to come up here and do a rain check for this. So you get this game for $20. So sure enough, he comes up there, grabs the ad, and goes, "Hey, I want a rain check for this." No one questioned anything. They
That's
just did it, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, we need to take this off because this game isn't out yet, so the ad's wrong." And they didn't do anything. They didn't change it. It was already out there. So I'm pretty sure there was other people that did the same thing. But it's hilarious that we got Resident Evil 4 for $20.
Who was
That's
it that
cool.
loaned me the Dreamcast because I couldn't afford to get it,
That
And
was
they let-
Jose.
and he let me borrow
That was
Codename
Jose.
Veronica,
Mhm.
and I beat it on that in a week. That whole week I had it. I
Yeah.
played that game every day when I got home from work, and I beat it. And then it was so different when it came out on the
So
GameCube version, because they
when-
made the spider look better, and a lot of the creatures were
yeah, and even
better.
because
And it added new parts to the game too.
even the PS2 version that they did for the Code Veronica X, where they added all the new features and some new cutscenes,
That
were really
extended
good.
fight. You know what? I like to make up my own lore sometimes for games. And so what I did for Resident Evil was that in Code Veronica X, in the extended fight scene, Chris gets his ass beat by Wesker. I made up in my head that mentally broke Chris because he got so close to dying and so close to losing his sister in that fight, that's what drove him to become a muscled out, roided freak by the time he was 5.
Who can punch
Boulder
boulders?
punching asshole.
Punch boulders. Like, yeah, that was the canon that I made in my head, that it messed with him so much that he was at such a physical disadvantage to Wesker that's why he ended up becoming the muscle
The
bound
roided-
freak that we know today.
Yeah.
It
So-
became, I remember it'd be kind of a challenge between me and you over who could get the latest information. Because I would come in and go, oh, hey, here's this, and you go, oh, yeah, I heard about that. But did you hear about this? And I'm like, God damn it, how does he keep figuring this stuff out? And I think, that was like when Wesker's Files came out. Remember the book Wesker Files, which were all the information about what he was doing
Is the
in
umbrella
all the
book-
game.
umbrella
Well, but there was
umbrella?
Wesker's Files, there was an umbrella one, and then there was a third one. And I remember at one point Andrew goes, I got this book and it tells me all this shit. And I was like, what is it? And he told me, and I was like trying to go to Barnes and Noble, or not even Barnes and Noble, Walden Books and the
Red Umbrella Archives. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, damn you.
So
Andrew.
Amber, what were you saying?
I was wondering if Andrew was in my science class when I wrote that little story / thing for extra credit, and it was all based on the science from Umbrella on trying to reanimate tissue, because it was about the virus, because we were talking about viruses in the science class. This is back at Miller. I think it would have been like 7th grade.
There you go.
I don't remember if you were in that class with me or not at that point.
No,
but
I don't think I was, because I remember the only thing I liked about my science class in 7th grade was the teacher, because I didn't know anybody in there. There was another guy named Matt Swain that was there that I knew him, but I didn't know anybody else in my science class.
So
But I do remember this story. I remember you telling me about it.
Yeah, so I remember we were talking about viruses and bacteria and all this kind of stuff in science class. And I was like, I went up to the teacher and said, hey, if I were to create a story based on the stuff that we're learning, could I get some extra credit? And she's like, yeah, sure. So I took the books that Dad had bought, all those like graphic novels where it was like Umbrella talking about everything they did to get the bodies reanimated to the different animals and blah, blah, blah. So I kind of created the story as if I was a scientist working for them, that I didn't realize what they were really trying to do until things started getting out of hand. And then it was, everything kind of started going to shit. And then Chris came in and we fought our way out of it. So it was literally just a made up story, but based on the science of Resident Evil. She liked it so much, she read it in front of the class. And I had a lot of people in there who were like, you stole that from Resident Evil. I was like, I didn't steal anything. I told her I was going to make something up. This is my own made up story, but I used the reference from Resident Evil. And she's like, it's just amazing, the science behind it, and this, that, and the other. And I was like, yeah, it's actually based off of this video game. And I started telling her about it. She's like, that's really cool. So that, because of Resident Evil, I got, an extracurricular grade. Helps me pass science class.
And that's the thing I really loved about Resident Evil was the science behind it, because it could happen. We have been working on, for years, virologists have been working on ways and means to reanimate tissue. We've tried to bring back dead animals and other things. We've resurrected a frog, and I loved the stuff that explored where the T virus came from, and then how Birkin manipulated that to create the G virus. And then, each game gave you a new thing. I loved all the puzzles. I loved everything. And what I really liked was the novels, which some of them retold the games, but added more stuff to it. So I had all of the novels. I bought every reference book that you could get, except for the one you gave me for my birthday or Christmas one year.
Yeah.
You bet. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, okay, you might as well say yes, because I can see that you don't, but you did. So, and I made the mistake of loaning that to somebody, and I never saw that person again or that book.
Well,
but
man.
There's a actual geneticist that does. What he does is he looks at movies and games and then reference them to what goes on in the study of RNA, DNA, and
Talking about
virology through viruses and bacteria and other things. And He just recently did one on fungi and how that's going to be the next big problem we have, because they're getting to where you can't kill them, the funguses.
We're gonna be
And
clickers.
so I'm like, oh my God, now we're going to be dealing with, the, what were they called? The clickers.
Yeah.
And then the fact that there are ants and lizards and other animals that are affected by certain funguses that get in, pyrons that affect the brain, cause mad cow disease and different diseases. And so this was like right up my alley, because I love gathering information and reading about this stuff. And so this was one of those first games where you could actually see the science behind it. And I don't think the guys who made the game, well, the Japanese might have been thinking about it, but they were very predictive in what they were writing about the game.
Yeah. Well, it's just, one of those things. You can get research journals and things like that, and you can see what trends are in science and experiments. So, but I know. Okay, so like for the last 30 minutes or 15 minutes, we'll talk about Resident Evil 8 a little bit, and then we'll call it quits, just because it's getting late, and then we can always save it for another time.
Yeah, because I'd like to talk.
Do you want to jump to 8, or do you want to finish 2?
We want to continue with 2 and then go from.
Well, look, we can probably go a lot further with 2 and 3 and Code Veronica. I think 8, for the most part, is cut and dry. So yeah, let's. Yeah.
And then I'd like to discuss the movies on another time. I mean, what I mean. That would be fun to do.
To discuss.
Well,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I hope I never run into him in a dark alley, because I'm going to really have to think about.
Double tap. I thought he was a zombie. I'm so sorry.
He traumatized me as a kid. I don't know. Anyway,
he destroyed my childhood memories.
So
weren't you an adult when it came out?
So as you know, Resident Evil 8 just came out recently, within the last week, and it's been really well received. It's Resident Evil: The Village. It's we can talk about a little bit of spoilers and everything. I overall enjoyed the game. I felt it was more of a Resident Evil game to me than Resident Evil 7.
Yes.
There was a lot of Easter eggs and throwbacks to other games in this one.
I
did.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah. Or what was it?
Yeah, he got off the steroids, and he slimmed down and became a normal looking military shaped person.
If you saw him in that,
he's nowhere near as what he was in 5. And which one was it, 5 or 6? When 5. He was like, I was like,
when they showed the first preview trailer for 5, I had no idea it was a Resident Evil trailer. I remember I used to go to GameSpot.com all the time, and
back in the day,
trailers would drop, and it just auto played. Like, it would have said Resident Evil, but I had it full screen, so I had no idea. I'm like, what the hell game is this? And it was like Chris going down a hallway, and he had his knife and his gun, almost CQC Snake style. And then the sun comes out and like that. I'm like, who's this dude? And then it's like Resident Evil 5. I was like, what? And then I had to look it up, and it's like, oh, that's Chris. What the hell happened, man? This dude hit the weights like you.
Well, and you think about it, the contrast between what he looked like in the originals, then that, and then you get to 7, and he looks like he had
not even the same person.
He had what do you call it?
Well,
I think it looks
surgery.
I think it looks great now. All the characters they've done since RE2 remake and RE3, I think looked fantastic. My personal favorite's Carlos, who looks real.
Actually, Carlos.
And that's goals. I want to look like Carlos. I think he looks awesome. And Chris looks great. I think the way that they've been modeling their characters, I think it's awesome now.
You know what? The biggest thing that that is their red herring, is Hunk. who hasn't shown up.
Gotta
or
let it
done-
go. Gotta let him
No.
go.
Yeah, we gotta let them know.
Gotta give him an
He's a
orange.
side character.
Umbrella's
Done.
gone, and they decided to go to a different direction. I mean,
And
This
so
how
then
crazy. Hey, this how crazy I was. I was so obsessed with Joseph Frost because that's who I picked when I was a kid. That in Resident Evil 2, there's that little book or note you find in RPD that I think it's like a patrol notes where they found some character in the sewers who ran away. They scared him off, and he drops like a broken scope or whatever. And I was like, scope. Joseph Frost had a scope on his gun. He's not actually dead. That was him in the sewers. If I can let go of that, you can let go of Hunk. He ain't coming back. He's done.
I was like, well, they created Tommy. It was Tommy, right, from Zero. He should have
No,
been
that's-
Hunk.
Oh,
You
Billy
you create-
Cohen.
Billy
Billy
Cohen.
Cohen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you're
forget
like,
him.
just create
He's
him,
done too.
make him
Yeah, he's
Hunk.
gone.
I mean,
Done too. Bye.
I'm
So
glad
that-
too because I hated his design. That
Veronica.
was too.
He was-
2000s, but like a 90s character.
it's David
Okay,
Hayter
and then
as a
there was-
CGI character.
my favorite, the gun game, which was the second.
You like guns? Which one? You're talking about?
I like the
Survivor?
one where I used the one
Or
the one with the
boat?
orange with the boat.
The boat.
Ship.
Okay, yeah, that one's not that.
I loved playing that with that gun. I was so good with that gun.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
And-
Survivor was pretty bad.
The first one.
You remember for my
mm,
birthday, one year y'all came over. Big Josh had bought it.
No, it was Jason.
It was
Jason got it.
Jason.
Yeah, Jason got it.
But you guys remember you came over to my house for my birthday and brought that. Like, oh yeah, this is what we're gonna play. Oh man, you talk about taking the oxygen out of a room. I think in the first 5 to 10 minutes, we're sitting there because I think Jason was old enough to where he bought this with his money. He wasn't like a kid like us. We had to get it from
Yeah.
our parents. He bought this with cash. And 5-10 minutes, we're sitting there trying to play this, and it's like headshots don't really matter. And it's like, well, this game's kind of weird, and this voice acting's terrible. And everybody's just sitting there in the house, and the couch is just like, He's like, no, it's good, right? Right, guys, it's good. It's not good.
I sat down and watched him play the whole thing. So I think I touched it once when we were trying to figure it out that one night, but I watched him play it all the way through, and he ended up trading it into Game Crazy.
All right,
how
now
many stories can end like that too?
Yeah.
so now explain to him what your husband did to me on that game. That game.
Which
I
one?
mean,
Not you don't have a husband.
No, I'm talking about which game. I didn't ask about.
That game, the gun game, the Survivor 2.
I don't have a husband.
Whatever he was that lived in
My
my
ex?
house.
Your
Your
yeah,
ex.
her
Your
ex.
ex-husband. That's what I said.
Ex-husband.
Your
Ex.
ex. He ain't yet ex, but he ain't put the ring on it yet. But that's a
That is an
That-
engagement ring, sir. Sir,
that's
I'm working
that's back then in the day, that was just a promissory note. but I had built up this big cache of weapons. I was ready to get on the island and just
Are you
start
talking
kicking. But I'm talking about when Josh used everything and
He didn't-
did
It was
he
zero.
he played
screwed
you
with
safe?
zero.
yeah, and he didn't beat that part.
No, he
And-
left you with nothing.
Nothing. I come home and I'm like,
No,
ready
Dad,
to play.
that wasn't that game. That was Resident Evil 0 because you're at the part with Marcus.
No.
Because that happened to you
No,
with
he
Marcus
did it to
too.
me twice because he
Yes,
did it on the
yeah.
gun, and he left me in the hole of the ship fighting that giant with a freaking knife.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
was like,
okay,
"Oh
yeah.
my god, is there any weapons in here? Is there any ammo?" And I found one friggin' ammo box that he had missed, and I was giving him the stink eye as I was playing it, and he was like, and he would go up and leave the room. And I
Yeah,
was
no,
like, "Oh."
Vince is right. I think he must have done it to you twice
He
because
did
Yeah,
do it to
because
me twice. He did
one
it
of them
in
had to have
Zero.
been Zero because
Yeah.
I remember that was at the trailer.
Because he did it to me at the very end of Zero. Because you go across the bridge and you go fight the final thing. I had nothing.
I don't think you've
And-
ever.
Dude,
I had
I
to.
never beat that. I was like,
One
I had to
time,
give
you have to kill it how many times?
Well,
And all
Brock
I got
says
is
that
the
he can-
dang
he can,
knife.
well, it gets weaker
Brock, we
whenever
can
the
mod it
light
for you.
hits it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
uh,
I had
Oh my
I
god!
had to give
I
him-
actually beat the other one, but I squeaked out a kill on the big giant, and I don't know how I did it. And I said, I beat him. Oh my! And I was like, wow. And then I immediately went around trying to gather up stuff to start building up my, my cash again, because I was very conservative. I would not use my bullets if I didn't have to. I was ready for the big bosses towards the end when you get to the island, and he did it to me there. And then somebody else did it to me on Zero. I don't know who it was,
We thought it
but
was
I hope
Josh.
both
It
of
was
them.
Yeah,
I
That was
hope-
Josh.
That
Okay,
was
I'm
Josh.
I was
Yeah.
just trying to say,
Uh-huh.
I hope he gets explosive diarrhea right this instant.
Okay, we know that he always gets it. So.
But no, because I remember that, because I was like, I had to have you, because I had a save file with all my stuff, and I said, here, Dad, use this to beat the game, so you can at least say you beat the game. And you didn't want to play the game again for Zero.
I
On
don't
Zero-
blame
on
him. Like,
Zero.
what's the mindset of someone, like, if you're not a gamer and you go and jackal someone's save, I can understand, because when the brief time I had dated Big Josh's sister Amber, she would come over a lot and would, I think at that time it was actually Fallout 3, which I was obsessed with, and I had to go to work. I said, you go ahead and stay here. The room is yours. Do whatever. And I remember telling her, I said, hey, look, be careful if you play Fallout. She wouldn't play Fallout, so don't save over the save. And I got back, and she did. So we had to have gentle words. That was it. She never made that mistake again. So how does somebody? I don't even really think Josh was a gamer. You guys can correct me. How does that happen twice?
But no
How do you-
respect.
What is the mindset that goes in there? And it's like, I'm going to check out somebody else's save. I'm going to play someone else's save, and then I'm going to let it auto save over it. And then I'm going to turn
Yeah.
the console off.
Well, him
log
and
off.
Ben thought it was pretty funny, and I wasn't amused.
Dad's like,
but-
I'm
Well,
not.
okay, no worse than what Megan did to me, and it wasn't her fault. But whenever I had my was it Pokemon Gold or Silver?
Yeah, but
I
what was
remember
her
which
age,
one it was.
though? What was her age? It's forgivable because my sister Taylor
was
had done
young.
that.
She
a
was
few
young,
times.
but
but she learned quick. How to
yeah,
like read it. How we talked about the
It's just having-
cartridge courtesy. It's like, okay, look, this is the save. Whatever. So yeah, you don't forgive Josh for that. Like I don't move past that.
Like, you're a grown ass man. What the fuck?
I'm 36 years old now. That's jacked up. I now am a honorary shooter in that I don't forgive him for that retroactively.
And I've always had
I'm
this.
angry now finding out about it. Resident Evil was my first like horror game, like for real horror game. Like I'd seen scary movies before. I loved zombies too, and at that time, for somebody younger who's not around, who wasn't around then, you did not have a lot of options for zombie related media.
Mhm.
You had, the George Romero trilogy. You had Dan O'Bannon with Return of the Living Dead, which was more on the funny side.
That
but
was
it had its
funny, yeah.
creepy- it had
And
its
you
creepy
couldn't
moments.
kill him by destroying the brain. That's the one thing that freaked me out
Right.
about
Even
the-
dismembering didn't even work. They had
yeah,
to like
yeah.
you had to like destroy them, like melt them. And then the Tom Savini directed one, Night 1990. So we didn't have a lot of
Well,
outlets
but
for it.
you
And there
could
were
go
there wasn't a
rent-
lot of games either.
You could rent the Italian ones because
That's
I
not
watched
something
a
that
lot of
everybody-
those.
like,
But no,
nobody
but a lot of
knew
people
who
didn't know
Lucio
about
Fulci
zombie and those other
was, or,
things. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, if you weren't reading Fangoria or Cinephistique or were in that know of things, it was hard to know what things were. I mean,
Yeah,
'cause
'cause
I think
I-
I mean, you were lucky with like the first zombie movie from Italy or whatever. I can't remember which one it is, but it had a zombie face on the cover, so you got
It's
lucky
just
with
called
that.
Zombie.
Yeah, but then you had other movies that were zombie movies that didn't have that kind of cover that told you what was going on. So
Yeah.
especially if you're cruising through the horror section in Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, and your parents are like beating down your neck of like, hey, come on, we got to go figure something out. So you're like, it's not like us, Dad, where we would sit there and look on the back of the box and read everything.
And I remember I would like, if y'all brought something up to me and the cover looked really good, I was like, it's not any good because all the money went into the graphics on the cover.
You bet.
I was like, no. But the Spanish ones, the Italian. I loved all that, but man, that was like way out there for how some of there was one where a paramilitary team went to a power plant to find a scientist, and it was like this whole, espionage thing. And halfway through, zombies come out of the jungle. I was like, wow, this just became a zombie movie. And then they're trying to survive and kill the zombies. And then you find out the people at the plant were actually creating the zombies, and it just was out there, and everybody died. Even the main guy is trying to get to the boat, and he's swimming, and then there's another underwater zombie that gets you, and that became a fixation on me. And that's why I loved World War Z, because the zombies in that lived underwater. They walked across the bottom of the ocean to other continents and just would come out of the surf. And
George
kill
Romero had
people.
talked about it for Land of the Dead. He had that scene, where they were coming across the bay.
Yeah.
Well, he actually had an underwater scene that he wanted to film for that, but there would have been no way for him to film it where it didn't look like he just copied. I believe it was a scene out of Pirates of the Caribbean where that showed the dead walking underwater.
Underwater.
So he had to nix that, but he really wanted to do that. It was already in the script, but he was like, it's going to be too much of Pirates of the Caribbean, so he ended up backing off of that. But no, at that time, unless you were in the know, like Ben said, unless you were in the know, you knew about the Italian horror genre, especially the zombie ones, Lucio Fulci. There wasn't an outlet for it. So it was really interesting to hear how excited you were that, oh my God, there's a zombie game. Even I remember Bobby talking about it. He had an older cousin who was like, dude, you like zombies too? And he's like, yeah, I love zombies. Of course, Bobby's my age, and he was younger. So he's like, yeah, because he had seen Dawn of the Dead first, just like I did. I didn't see Night of the Living Dead first. So Dawn of the Dead first. And this is super, super random, but in the know. In Pasadena, Texas in the mid-90s, I think it was Warner Cable, for some reason, Channel 6, you got Showtime for free. It was part of the cable package. Of course, I found that out late at night and saw boobies that way. But
I think we had this discussion on another conversation.
That's how I saw Dawn of the Dead, because they would also play a lot of horror movies. So I was like in 4th grade, 5th grade, early, young. Dawn of the Dead came on and scared the hell out of me. It was so cool. I thought it was the best movie I'd ever seen in my life at that time. That's what got me into zombies. It really made me a part of that. So even like going back to that EGM where I'm reading about Resident Evil, I was so hyped up for it, but I was scared that it was a point and click game. I was like, I don't want that. Please let me point and click. So needless to say, I was happy about it. And that's why I could probably say, even though Metal Gear is my favorite game series, Resident Evil was my second favorite. Of course, now we're inundated with zombies, so
and they've become cliche. Yeah, they really have. I like when you get a good director who will flip it or mess with your expectations, and because I think that's the only way it's going to survive. Because now it's just with Walking Dead and everything else, it's
too oversaturated. You also have the fact that it's become mainstream now, because back then it was like, you talk about zombies, like, what's that? Most people.
Yeah, I mean, they even have like and I know if people are into it, it's cool. I think it's super cringe. But they have like, I don't know if they do them anymore, but they had like zombie dead walks where everybody would get up and like do like a 1K as a zombie and walk.
Yeah.
Let's get together and do it.
For a while they were doing where you could go in to like a warehouse or they would create zombies and you had to run through it, and you had to kill them with the fake light gun and stuff like that. And I was like,
man, Vince did that at freaking the whatever that laser thing was, Laser Quest by Space Center. I remember too. We showed up and you could put like any name you wanted on the board. And so Vince was like, okay, well, you like Chris, I'll be Chris, I'll be Leon. It's like, okay, so we put up on whenever we go to the counter to get our laser guns and shit, they're like, so what's your name or what name do you want? Everybody was putting like their nicknames, and I went up there and I was like, call me Chris. And the guy's like, okay. And so after it was done, the two top leaders, Chris and Leon, was like, yeah, that's how it should be. Everybody else, like Hot Boy and
That
Master,
was-
whatever, and then but right there at the top, Leon and Chris.
Chris,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
And
remember.
the
go
funny
ahead,
thing, hold on. The funny thing is that was Franklin's. Wasn't that Franklin's birthday party too? Where we
Yeah. It was.
So it's like, yeah. And that was like the last party we had with Franklin before he left, wasn't it? It was like kind of his last hurrah.
Might have been, yeah, before he became.
Was I there for that one? Because I did do a lot of laser.
I think
laser-
you went to the house for a little bit because I think we stayed at Andrew's house for the party. And then we walked around, and then his mom or uncle showed up, or somebody with a limo, and then drove us over to.
That was that my birthday party, or did we just did that for somebody else?
I don't know. I think we did it for somebody else.
Okay, then I wasn't with that one.
I don't remember. It's been a long time.
I do remember the limo drive though. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
my uncle. They had moved to.
Oh yeah, that
Tennessee.
was for you. Yeah.
They had moved to Tennessee. That's when they lived in real Raccoon City, in Dyersburg, and
Mhm.
he would come back to Houston to do temp work to get some cash because he was like really big into investing and everything at that time. So that would be like his seed money. He'd come back to Houston. He would work jobs here in the area, odd
and then
jobs,
yeah,
go back, and that's what he would invest with because he was one of the few. He like went to town hall in Dyersburg to lobby them to start getting internet access out there because they didn't have. Of course, this is like the late 97, 98, so it wasn't as ubiquitous, obviously, as it is now. But he had to lobby them to go ahead and start opening up to at least. They wouldn't have DSL, digital subscriber lines or anything like that, but to at least put the infrastructure in
what
place
the?
to get dial-up. And so that's what he would do out there. But yeah, that limo drive was really fun. I remember that now. He's like, oh, I think when we started out, it's like, okay, you can pull the moonroof back, just don't stick your heads out. And I kept lobbying him. He's like, all right, fine, you can go ahead and stick your heads up.
Dad, you all right?
Yeah, there's somebody banging something outside. I can't tell
Sure
if it's
it's-
a car door that they're
You
slamming,
sure it's not?
but
you sure it's not
and every time
Beyond
I
Dad?
hear it, I look back and Scarlett's like,
Are you
looking at
playing
the
cards
window.
with Scott and Elias the guard?
No. Okay, so two things before I forget them. One, we drove to go pick up Josh from Arkansas, which was the most unique drive we've ever made, and it became foggy. There were a lot of curves. There was this one guy who sped past us, and we saw his taillights as he was going, and all of a sudden his taillights went off straight and disappeared. When we got to where that was, it was a curve. And we were like, oh shit, did he just drive off the road and drive off the cliff? And I was like, we need to go pull over and look. And they were like looking out the window, and Richard was like, no, this is horror movie stuff. No. And then we drove through this wooded area, and the people there had hung these beautiful glowing like half sun faces, half moon, and all this stuff. So we're driving, the fog had kind of cleared, and the moon came out, so you could see all the trees. It was like a horror movie. And then all of a sudden, these glowing masks hanging in the trees as we drove by, and
Like glowing,
Richard-
or were they just
glowing.
off
They
the headlights?
glowed. No, they glowed. They glowed blue. And Richard's like, "Is that people?" I said, "No, I think it's masks because you could see him like doing this." And he I was like, "We can go." I kept hitting like we could just stop and go look. We can. No, just keep going straight. And then we got there, got Josh. That was a fun adventure. And then coming back, he read the map wrong. He didn't reverse engineer the map to get us home. So we ended up going deep into Arkansas and circling around through Louisiana into, I was waiting for the banjos to start. And
Imagine
I
if
was
you had
like,
played Resident Evil 7 at that time.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure you're reading that map right? He goes, yeah. And I was like, show me where we're at. And I'm like, Richard, no. And I finally figured out where we were. And I said, dude, we're like 10 miles out almost to New Orleans. I mean, not New Orleans, but into Louisiana. And we got to drive all the way through Louisiana. And then we did the dam. Remember the shortcut that was over a dam? And I was like, this is like every movie I've ever watched in one single weekend.
Trip, yeah. So the worst thing was we got back to Texas.
Who else in the car first? That's one.
It was me, Richard, my dad, and Josh.
Yeah.
So-
Big Josh at this point.
Which one? Little?
Big Josh.
Big Josh.
Okay.
So here's the thing. We're sitting here like, we go through this small town that like, Dad's like, I don't know about this. I don't know if this is right or not. So we pull down a street, and then we're going down the street, and the houses just keep getting worse and worse and creepier. And like, they're going to wear our skin as their masks. And it pulls to a dead end. And Dad's like, yeah, no, this is totally not it. And we start seeing movement in the background and around us and stuff. So Dad just starts reversing it back. He goes, Richard, you need to learn to use the map, because I don't want to do this, because we could have
I
died
was
here
trying
tonight.
really hard not to get mad at him. Like,
We could have died here tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm
I don't
just
want to
in-
end up in somebody's lost
Everybody.
footage film.
There would have
I
been,
think-
it would have been lost footage because we weren't recording.
But no, there's
But that
somebody
found-
else.
it would have been found
somebody else.
footage.
Them recording us. And then there was
Look,
1 year.
Early Uber Eats just showed up with our dinner.
Oh my gosh. And at one point I went to I was doing cons for the book, and they brought in a zombie thing, a whole area for zombies, and Logan was with me, and we did this gun range where you had moving targets that would come up and down at you, and they were different zombies. And Logan did his, and they were really good groupings on the shots. I was like, that's pretty good. And I go, well, that's my turn. So the first time I did it, I kept shooting all the kneecaps out of them. And the dude was like, why are you shooting at their knees? I said, because they can't get me if they can't crawl. And he goes, that's funny. I said, no, I want to do it again. So then I did all headshots on that. They were just the whole headshot is just gone, because they were little bitty BB-like shots. So it was like, and I just took out the whole head. And I came back with 4 of those. They gave them to you after it was over with. And I came back with 4 of the paper targets of zombies, and all shot up.
PAX South, when we went several years ago, the one that was in Austin, or was it in San Antonio?
I think you went to
San
it was
Antonio.
Antonio. Yeah, that's where y'all stayed at the hotel, right?
Yeah, this was before. Was it before 7 came out? Because they were advertising for it. I can't
I
remember,
don't remember.
but they had this whole setup.
Oh no,
where
7
you-
hadn't come out yet. They were advertising it.
Yeah, so there's this
Yeah.
whole setup that you could walk through the house that's in 7,
Yeah, because you could play the demo.
and at the end you could play the demo.
Right.
And
So it was like a haunted house. It looked like it was kind of decked out like the house in the game, and then
yeah,
yeah.
which was really really cool. But they used to have these other they were like 5K challenge runs. They weren't just let's go hang out and do a walk around town like the zombie walks. This one was a survival 5K. And they had people, you could either sign up to be a zombie and they do professional makeup on you, or you'd be a runner. So you'd have a belt that had these little red ribbons.
Oh
hanging.
no.
You had like 6 of them. And so the zombies, they teach you like you can't really like hurt somebody. You need to grab for these ribbons, because that's what that is their life points. And
I
so
like
they
that they
had
had to preface that first.
Yeah, because there's somebody who's like
there's some
just
people that
They're
really
signing up. It's like, I'm gonna fucking bite
overachiever.
for real.
Yeah.
don't bite people.
What is that? It's a heart. I'm
Yeah.
taking it. This is like my trophy.
But
Okay.
there
Hey,
were
is this like House of the Dead, where I have like health bars at the bottom? So like if I get hit, I'm gonna it just takes a health bar away, and I can continue to play.
Yeah, basically. They had all these different like obstacle courses you had to run through. One was like a warehouse, one was a cornfield with zombies in it, one was out in the woods, and you don't know where they're going to be.
Eating
They're
walks
just,
behind the rose.
huh?
No.
Oh.
The cornfield
They're
one?
just random. But what was really cool was they had health packs along the route, and they were hidden. So they wanted you to kind of go and explore the areas. And so when you got a health pack, it would have like another bottle of water and then additional red ribbons to put on yourself. And so depending on if you had any ribbons left when you finished, you got a survivor medal and it says like I survived the zombie 5K, or if you didn't, it goes I didn't survive the zombie 5K. But they were pretty cool, and I wanted to sign up for one, but then they quit doing it. They went out of business, and I was like, no, because I was training for it.
Oh man, well that actually sounds kind of neat.
It was really fun. Like I think they still have videos of what it was online. Like you can go look up, and it just looked a lot of fun. Like you'd have to like cross a lake. It was really intense. So it was kind of
You can
like
do the
that
whole thing like
5K.
if Dad or Andrew played, it was like, why do you guys have like 16 ribbons and like 4 8 cans of water? Because
so
you're like you went through it thoroughly.
You talking about how Resident Evil 8 felt like a real Resident Evil or classic Resident Evil. I know exactly what you mean because when I beat it, I had a small arsenal in my
your
inventory because I was mad because I was bitching the whole time while I was playing it, especially at the beginning against the Lycans, was that they move quick. They're almost basically bullet sponges, 5 headshots to knock one out with the unupgraded pistol. And I was like, dude, ammo's scarce, and these guys are bullet sponges. This is bullshit, And with a lot of the way that the village was set up, there's narrow alleyways. I could move better with tank controls to get out of the way. Ethan moves so weird in first person that in that game that I was like, bro, I can't escape. Even with down and B 180 turn, I would try to run, and it was like stop 180. And then he would go, and then they'd slash my back. I'm losing health. It was a struggle, at least in the beginning, but I always complain. And then when I get to the end and I'm fighting with, Miranda, I open up my thing, and I'm like, dude, I got 12 Magnum shots. I have, I think I had over 110 pistol rounds. I had 56 shotgun shells. So it's like, okay, let's do it.
Well, what I watched Vince play. So when he would start playing for the first time again for when he get on, because he did like it in 4 or 5 gameplays, I would get dizzy, and I'm like, dude, why are you moving like that? You're making me nauseated. He goes, it's not me, Dad, it's the game. It's hard. And then you could see him get into the rhythm of the character, and then his movements became more fluid. But by the time we were playing the third time, I was like, man, I just makes me sick when he's doing that, and he wasn't doing it on purpose. It was just the way the game.
Because you have to get used to like the way Ethan moves. I mean, like
Yeah.
even like when at the beginning of the game, it's like you're wading through water, and then like especially like right after the crash, and you're walking to the first house. It's like I'm sorry, it's dark outside. I'm gonna actually walk normally or be stealthy like Solid Snake and like kind of look around and stuff. Not Ethan. Oh man, I don't know.
Bullshit. The crouching
Yeah,
nothing.
Oh yeah, because that was my thing too. Is like I go to crouch and I'd move forward and my character goes stand up. I'm like, what the hell? Crouch, stand.
And I was hoping that there would have been like maybe stealth kills at the very least, where I would go up behind them and then I would use the knife, because it would have been situational, obviously, because you would have been able to save way too much ammo. But there were a couple times, especially in the castle, where there was a couple of jabronis and I'm right behind them. They have no idea that I'm there. I crouch and go over, and I'm doing my thing, and they just stop and they turn around. And I'm like, you did not know I was there, and I got to get up and waste a couple of rounds.
Yeah.
I was like, the crouch didn't even need to be there. And they're like, and people would be like, okay, well the crouch was there so you can go under objects. Bullshit. All you have to do is walk up to the object, and then the animation would force Ethan to go underneath it, and then you're there. It was a waste of time to map that on there without any stealth action. So I was just
I felt that the stealth action was missing. The other thing about 7 was, remember at the time we were going to get a brand new Silent Hill game, which was going to have what's his name from Norman Reedus, and I loved the way that looked.
Yeah.
And then that went away. And then when I first saw the very first preview of 7, I was like, wait a minute, did they buy the game and just kind of, turn it into, and it didn't, but it did remind me of how that game was going to look. And so Seven
thing
was a little
about
bit hard for me to watch and get through.
I think there's talks of them still going back and trying to finish the Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Well, they either got to buy it from Konami or get the team together and call it literally something else.
Something else. Yeah.
You know, and
So I'm not
my
real
problem
sure.
with 7 was I didn't like. It felt like too much. And me and Vincent talked about this before when we did a test Zoom. 7 felt like an overcorrection to me, like a really knee-jerk overcorrection for the
From
sake
6. Yeah.
of 6. Now, I like 5. I really liked the story in 5. I thought it ended well, besides the boulder punching, you know. But finally, Wesker was dead. You know, I really liked 5, and you know, I liked Sheva. Of course, like, you know, I'm always a Chris fan, and I thought it was cool. Revelation, and was it Revelations 2 were cool. 6 comes, and again, something we talked about with Vince. The BOWs, like biological weapons, were worldwide. Like, this is like a known thing now. So 7, even though it was an isolated backwater, you know, Louisiana, I still feel like, nah, man, the world is not the same anymore. Like this, you had monsters ravaging downtown. What was it, Hong
Yeah,
Kong?
Hong Kong and
Chris story.
everywhere. Yeah.
Like, this is a known commodity now. This is like aliens landing. You know, this is huge, and it just didn't. It's like another day, no big deal. Like, they didn't expand upon that. So that's why when they went to 7, they had all those criticisms for 6, which is cool because even though 6 sold well because it was Resident Evil, they understood where the criticisms came from because it was the lowest rated in the series, you know, out of the main canon games, not the side stuff. It felt like an overcorrection, and I was just like, hard pass on this. Like, if it was called something else, you know, Louisiana Adventure or something like that, okay, cool, yeah, I might have gotten it. I'm really big on the names. It's like, don't call it something when it's really not
If
that.
it's
So then
not
Village
that.
comes out, and definitely, I mean, you know, they drew almost all their inspiration from Resident Evil 4,
4. Yeah.
which is fine. But yeah, I think Vince hit the nail on the head. It really felt like not an old Resident Evil game, but it felt like a Resident Evil game,
A Resident Evil game.
and I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
I liked
Four.
it was, what is it? It was fungus, right? In
Mold.
in 7 mold. I
Mold.
like
Which is mold in this one
that
too.
yeah. And I like how they the one thing about Resident Evil is it always continued what you saw before, but gave you something new each time. You know, it upped the game, but
See,
it still felt
I actually
like
complained about that to Vince. That's interesting that you liked it. I complained to him because it was like each writing team tried to one up each other. So you had the mainline story of TNG, and then all of a sudden 0 comes out. Oh yeah, by the way, there's these leeches. And then 5 comes out. Oh yeah, well, forget your leeches. We have progenitor. You know, we have the flower that we found.
found,
It always seemed like they were always trying to like one up somebody. So it's like, well, what's Resident Evil 9 going to be? It's going to turn out that a meteor had crashed, you know, in Antarctica, and a science team went out to a remote base and found out that, hey, this is actually what started it. And it seemed like a game of one up. So it's interesting that you like that.
Well, I
Bob-
actually thought that that 7 and 8 were going to tie more closely to Codename Veronica than it did, just because of what drove the infection in that game. What was the experiments they were doing, and then we get 4, which is the the
Virus.
core virus that everything else manifested from. Okay, I like that. 5 was a natural progression for the characters. You showed that they'd
Yes.
moved on and they were doing something different. They weren't the
and the
same
fact that
thing.
it became international bioterrorism,
Terrorism,
I thought was a
yes.
natural progression as well. Like that's
6,
where you're going to go.
6, they had no idea the direction where they
Yeah, they
wanted
didn't
to
know what
take
they were
Resident Evil, so they threw everything at you
Having
and
the-
hoped that you would
Having that
pick
scenario
right.
play through like that, where you had like 4 different scenarios you're going to play through to get the whole story, I think took away from the grand aspect
Story.
of why Resident Evil is scary like it is, or the story, because you could have done all that stuff and still had it. I think the mishap with 8, there, to me, there, if you look at previous Resident Evil games, there wasn't a whole lot of story development in this game. I mean, like, you're like, went through this whole situation with Ethan and like, oh, his hand gets sliced off. And of course, part of his jacket, why did his jacket fall off? Is he like Venom, where like, you know, his clothes are actually the mold too, so it's understandable why it sits there? I mean, this is also a next gen game. Why can't you put the physics in there that like when his hand sliced off, oh, the parts of his clothes fell off too. So when he reattached his hand throughout the whole game,
Yeah, the
you see
rest
this
of the
weird
shirt's
cut.
gone. Yeah, the
Yeah.
jacket's gone.
You know, I know that's nitpicking, but still, it's like this is
But that part was cool though, because my jaw hit the floor. I was not expecting that.
All the things that Ethan
you go
goes
to
through in
pull
this
the
game
lever.
are like, you know, something's wrong with Ethan.
But that's why I like
Yeah.
this so much, because he reminded me of Ricky from Riccio and everything that he went through.
Oh, you
And he
found a way to
he
bring
kept
that into this
coming back.
conversation. Oh my
How do you not make that
gosh.
connection? Like, how do you not
So
do it?
for anyone
You should
listening,
have heard Brock when it happened. He was
check
like,
out Ricky O.
"And again, not the other one."
Some
So-
say I ruined the game for you. I think I
He enhanced it.
I enhanced it with you. But I felt that it was a mistake for Capcom to make Lady Dimitrescu be like the first boss, and then like she just goes down like a
that
like
was-
nothing.
Like
Like,
that,
she was-
I loved
like
it.
I
her and
felt
Heisenberg
her.
was super interesting. The Heisenberg gets
Yes.
the grand finale. She should have been towards the end as well, because Moreau was okay but forgettable.
I think
Well,
they did
I
that because the
understand
main
why.
antagonist is a woman. So you don't want to have the two women back to back, because
Well,
then it gives a perception of that
um,
they're teaming up on women. And we know that today everything is about that. So they kind of moved her to the front. And I thought
She was
Heisenberg was
she
a
was super
much
heavy
more
in the front.
complicated, a much better character than she was. Well, better developed. And I just hated how they ended him with just you shooting.
Well, that's the
at
thing.
him.
Like, going back to what Vince said, you got introduced a lot of things, and there just wasn't enough time to really soak it in. I personally, here's what I think should have happened. I think it should have just been two of these bosses in this game, because even though I wasn't super into Moreau, there was definitely more there to him as a fish man.
As a
The
fish guy.
dollhouse girl has crazy powers. There's definitely more going on. And that was, to me, the scariest part of the game, is the giant, fetus is chasing you in the basement. Like, I felt genuine, like, stress. Like, it reminded me of the Resident Evil 2 remake, hearing Mr. X walk around RPD. Like, I
Yeah.
was stressed out with that thing coming behind me and Ethan moving like a piece of shit. So, Dimitrescu and her daughters and the whole vampire backstory, and how the what the hell's the thing called, the Cadu or whatever, how it has such different reactions with people.
People.
That's super interesting. Like, I wanted to know way more. She was super interesting. Her daughters were. I wanted to see more of these vampire exploits. I didn't like the fact that they were the first ones gone. Heisenberg and controlling metal and everything, that was awesome. I was glad they saved him for the end too, because he really did seem like the most powerful, especially with what he does to you in the beginning when you first meet him. But they put too many in there at once. I felt it should have just been the two, and if they wanted to milk it, have it end on a cliffhanger and then throw the other two in there, or forget
do
the old
a-
lady and
yeah.
and forget Moreau and just
So-
have it Heisenberg and Dimitrescu.
So if you look at the concept art and everything, Heisenberg was originally supposed to be the main villain. Actually, Heisenberg was supposed to be two brothers, and then there was a old man that was the father of them that was supposed to be the main villain. He was the one who transformed into the grotesque Akira monster at the end, or at that fight.
Wicked City Monster.
For House of Benevito, that location right there felt like that was a love letter really officially to PT. And then I felt that as much as I enjoyed that spot, it's good the first time you play through it. It sucks every other time you play through it, because it's just too long. As far as, even though you can get through it really quickly, it's a break in the action. It's a break in what you've been doing, like up to that point and everything after that point. There's got to be a way that you can just like skip that whole section altogether, because it's not relevant to the story. It's not relevant to the process.
I mean, it becomes a boss hunt.
Yeah,
At
that's all it is. It's because even at that, you're just hide and seek. But it doesn't take away that it was a fun experience for the first time doing it. But going through it multiple more times, it's like okay.
And that's how
all
I
right.
feel about the sewers in Resident Evil 1 on PlayStation. That one, I love the guardhouse. I love everything in the mansion that leads up to it.
Oh, when you're going with the shark and everything,
Yeah, once you go get the second battery to go up the lift to turn the crank so that the
Crank,
water, reveals the ladder. So that was always my least favorite part. Number one, you're full of the place was full of hunters,
Yeah.
which is the first part, and then the second part, I just felt like it was like even when I go back and play, I'm just like I'm running through real quick. I'll grab some fade spray that I find, and then I hurry up, get this cutscene with Enrico, get the hell out of there. That's my least favorite part. So I can see what you're talking about with House, Benevito, whatever, not
What
holding
makes-
up on second playthroughs.
What gets me is that the games keep getting shorter and shorter, and you have to replay through the same levels over and over again, and it just seems like a shortcut in the game to try to make it more complex by leaving certain areas that you have to come back after you keep getting other things and coming back, and after a while you get tired of playing that. I always thought that one kept you moving pretty quickly. You did have to come back and unlock rooms, remember, and stuff like that.
Once you got what was the last key? Was it that wasn't the shield key? Was it the shield key? Was the last one that you get in the guardhouse? So when you make the return, because the first door that you open when you get it is that one that's in the same hallway with the doorway to the Crow art gallery. Because they have the Magnum rounds in that same little office. You could turn the light on the desk. I want to say it's the armor key, actually.
That's what I was thinking, because the shield key only really opened very few doors. Yeah.
Might have opened the piano room.
Because you had to use the shield key to go into the room where the spinning knight with the shield that had the blades on it, that if you would go complete it and then you walked back into the room, it would turn and it would run along a track and block you into the hallway and then kill you. And I remember you had to use the shield key to unlock that door.
Are you talking about remake?
No, I'm talking about the original.
I don't remember
What part was that, Dad?
Okay. There was a room that you had to go to, and at the end of the hall, you would walk in, you'd walk by two pillars, take a left. There was a statue of a knight, and he had a shield, and it looked like his shield had blades on it.
That was only in the remake.
Was it in the remake? I thought that
only
was
in the
in the
remake.
original.
No.
Because then you go down the hall, unlock that door,
Yeah.
get
that's only
whatever's
the
in that
remake.
room, and when you come back, then you fight the thing, which is mechanized.
Yeah.
And it would, if you didn't know to jump a certain way into a cubby, it would come and kill you every time.
Oh yes, that is the remake. That's the beginning. When you go
that's
off
the
to
remake.
the left side of the house, you got the big long
And it's
staircase
upstairs.
that goes up, and there's some crows up there. And yeah, you got to go along.
It's only in
back.
the remake.
Yeah, that's got
Okay.
that long track, and then it kind of comes where that one was a remake. The only place in the original where there were like knights with like armor and stuff was that
In the gas
room
chamber.
upstairs with the gas chamber. You got to
The gas, I remember that too.
Over the little vent, and then it drops to the thing that gives you a crest.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I'm gonna have
but
to call it soon, but I wanted to show you guys. I've already shown Vince and Dad, but Andrew, you've never seen my house.
Oh,
My
go for it.
entire den, like when you first walk in the front door, which is right there, this whole room right here, is Resident Evil themed. So
There's the man.
Chris, Leon, Jill, you see her okay?
Yeah, remake.
Yep.
Jill.
Okay, and then I have stairs. And what stair is not complete with?
A vacuum cleaner? No, sorry.
no, it's
It's
a
okay.
type.
I know. Just wait for
Typewriter on a round table. This is my Resident Evil Welcome Home.
Mhm.
And then I know the light's kind of like reflecting on it.
The clock. She's got the clock over there.
The map of the mansion. And it's got all Jill's notes and stuff in here. So I was almost a sandwich. So it's all of her notes from the game. This right here, Raccoon Police Station. And then, can you
Her
see my
herbs.
And then, yes, got the clock from the dining room.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Eventually,
Ding, ding.
that's the thing that was dinging earlier. So eventually, I don't know if you can see it. This knob right here, I want to see if I can't get an umbrella metal symbol and glue it right on there. So when I want to open this up, it's the umbrella symbol. And then there's, let me see. Can you see that one okay?
Yeah, it reminds me of the Silent Hill map when you're
That's
looking
the
at the town.
Raccoon City one. And then I've got like this rug that looks like it belongs in the game. So
That is really cool.
I'm a bit obsessed with the game because it was such a huge impact on just everything from when it came out to what it's become now, and just how much we love it. You know, collecting the games, the board games that have come out, which they're doing Resident Evil 2 board game.
They just finished
3.
the
They're
Resident Evil
doing
2.
two's
They're
over.
doing-
Two's over there on
That
my.
one, which
Yeah, they're doing 3, which I have.
I have
I've
that
already
one
that
right.
backed.
so we pre-ordered 3 on Kickstarter, and then the comic books that came out for it and everything else. And I even have
Oh yeah, the Game Crazy Resident Evil 3 employee promotional
Was that a
badge.
tattoo?
let me come in here so you can see it better.
I hate the fact I can't put stuff in front of the camera and it like gets blurred
You gotta-
out like it's
You
cuss
gotta,
word. But I gotta go back.
there's
Until
a
you-
way to. Yeah, there you go.
Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Vince gave me this whenever he worked at Game Crazy. He had like
I
extras.
still have it.
Yeah, I kept this damn thing. Ask me for details.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to really see, but it's
The green
there's
herb.
so much on it. It's the green herb. This is gonna be one of the gems that you have to put in the tiger's eye.
Oh, I thought you were gonna get the red herbs. You gotta mix them together to get the full health.
And then there's a crow, and the crow's holding the heart
Key.
key from 2.
That's
So-
awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna eventually get it completed, but I was like, if I'm ever gonna have a video game tattooed on me, it's that one and it's Zelda. So those are like my 2 favorite games.
Well, you go Resident Evil on the right arm, Zelda on the left.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to do sleeves though. I'm kind of like, I've already got like 1, 2, 4 tattoos. So
But yeah. Let me, guys. Could you keep talking? I'm trying to. I have some stuff
Well-
I got to move out of my furrin job. real
I
quick.
talking
wanna keep
about the
talking about 8?
direction that well I'd like to go back to 2 for a minute. The direction that 2 took us was different than what was originally intended, because if
Yes.
you remember
Oh,
there
yeah,
was
the old
75% of which had a whole different type of city. It was a big major city, skyscrapers, and everything looked newer. And
Downtown Houston kind of look.
yeah, I just have always wondered what would have happened if that had been the path that they took.
Well, I've watched people play them on YouTube. Like, you know, the guys on PC had managed to combine and fix as much of the game as they could to make it playable. First of all, I love the music in there. Of course, I love PlayStation music from that time period. But the music I thought was still good. They had zombie dismemberment other than just like the torso and I think a couple of arms that you could shoot off in the what became Resident Evil 2. This one, you could shoot off the arm, they'd keep coming. You could shoot off the leg, and they would fall, keep crawling. Like it had
Crawling.
more dismemberment. Even like some of their hands, I think you could blow off too. I liked it. Like you said, downtown Houston actually kind of reminded me of, what they used as Delta City for RoboCop. That sort of real sterile, clean look inside of the what was RPD before it became the art museum for part
Yeah.
2. When it became part
Well,
2.
they actually filmed it in Houston, the first one. It's supposed to be Detroit.
No. The first one was Dallas.
I mean, the second
RoboCop
one.
2,
It was in
here.
Houston because I was down there to be an extra when they were filming it under the skywalk at what was the hotel, the Hilton or whatever that was.
Yeah.
And they only used a certain amount of the group, and the rest of us were, so we could stick around. And I was like, no, I want to be in RoboCop 2. But yeah, RoboCop 1 was up here in Dallas, and just like Who Goes There or I Come in Peace was in Houston, and we were downtown trying to, in the middle of summer, and they were having people show up to be extras in winter coats, and I was like, you gotta be kidding. And they do the whole Christmas tree sale thing in downtown, and then when they're driving in the car, and on one side of the road it's River Oaks area where the nice houses were, and then all of a sudden it cuts over to that old navigation, that school that's on over by the refineries and everything, and it's old, and it had a lot of, if you drove by it today, you would see a lot of graffiti on the building, but they had sandblasted just that portion of the front of the school, that when he turns to talk to the FBI guy, you see the school as they go by, and it was just that one. I was like, I had to drive by that every day to go to work. That because when I worked at Stanley Tool and Erie Manufacturing. So
that's what made it so hard for them to film a lot in Houston, even to this day, is we don't have any zoning.
Yeah.
So they can't get straight residential without being in a neighborhood. They can't get straight commercial without having to go to a different area. You start in a residential, you got house, random warehouse, house, pipe yard. So that's always going to hurt Houston filming, depending on what they're trying to do.
All right, everyone. We didn't get to continue the story. It's getting a little late. We will continue this on another episode. We actually want to go more in depth on the Resident Evil series and our memories of each game. Go a little more in depth in Resident Evil 8 than what we discussed. We do like the game. I know that we were giving some negative criticisms about the game, but we did really enjoy it. Hey, tell us your favorite memories of what you've played in the past for Resident Evil. If you have fun stories like we did, share them down below and let us know. Until then, please like and subscribe. Comment down below.
Stay
Until
nerdy.
next time.
we'll be back.
Punch those boulders.